Okay, Assalamualaikum, selamat petang. So we are here today, seminar yang kedua, whereby as you're aware lah, I think from the memo, we are supposed to do an online session for second seminar sahaja. Okay, so far lah untuk buat masa ni, seminar ni je lah kita allowed to do online session. Okay, so therefore let's proceed dengan continue dengan topik yang sebelum ni. I dah record tadi. Okay, I recorded it already. So let me try to share. Okay. Okay, so this is the continuation from the previous lesson. Okay, as a recap, initially I started off with the topic, a brief topic number 1, introduction of financial management, and then we went through topic number 2, whereby we recap the structure of the financial statements. Specifically, kita go through the format and the content of the statement of financial position, the balance sheet. And then we look at the income statement as well. Okay. And next, after that, we touch a bit in topic number 3, and we went through the first category of ratio of the financial ratios, which is the liquidity ratios. Okay, under liquidity ratios, we have the 3 ratio, the current ratio, the quick ratio, and lastly, net working capital. Okay, as far as I can recall, itu 3 lah. Okay, and for today, we're going to continue with the rest of the ratios. Okay, so in total, we have 5 categories. So 1 tick kita dah buat, liquidity. Next, the second category is called leverage. Okay, so leverage is the second category. So when you see the terms leverage, okay, when you see the terms leverage, you can associate it with the terms ataupun the items debt, hutang. Okay, so leverage associated with debts. Okay, and in the leverage ratios, there are a few things that we can see. Number 1, the measurements of the financial structure. Okay, when we talk about financial structure, it is actually to see how the assets are being financed. Okay, so katakanlah dia ada 1 million worth of assets. So by looking at this leverage ratio, kita boleh tengok how many percent of the total assets being financed either by the debts, the liabilities, or by the equity. Okay, so from there kita dah boleh nampak lah the financial structure, number 1. And we can see also to what extent the company is levered by debts. Okay, kebergantungan dia kepada hutang tu banyak mana. Okay, we can see that from leverage ratios as well. Okay, again using the debt information and the equity information as well. And the third one is quite important as well. We can see the ability of the company to service their own debt. Okay, so one of the indicators kejap lagi, kita nak tengok in terms of their profits, okay, their earnings, how much they have in servicing their own debts. Okay, we can see from that lah, especially when we talk about service debt ni, we're going to see in terms of their ability to serve their financial kita panggil dia interest lah basically, ataupun kita panggil the financing cost ataupun the finance cost of the company. Okay, and again the higher degree of the indebtedness will result to the higher risk. Okay, and obviously when we talk about high risk, high indebtedness, they are subject to the high fixed payment obligations. But when they have a lot of debt, obviously every month they dah commit a certain amount of payment, a fixed payment obligations. Okay, so kalau lagi tinggi hutang dia, lagi besar komitmen yang dia ada lah untuk bayar fixed payment obligations. Alright, At the same time, kalau company tu have a very low debt ataupun leverage, it's not good for the company as well. Sebab usually when we talk about high risk, dia akan associated dengan higher returns. Okay, so therefore, as a company, as a firm, dia kena balance the usage of debt as a leverage dengan penggunaan dia punya equity lah. Okay, because there's a positive ataupun there's a advantage of using debt. Okay, walaupun kalau terlalu banyak debt akan ada tadilah kebergantungan kepada hutang, dia ada komitmen yang tinggi untuk bayar setiap bulan. Tetapi if they use properly the debts, dia ada few benefits. Number one, the cost of debt usually cheaper. Okay, cost untuk dapatkan to acquire debt is cheaper. And secondly, the finance cost, the interest tu pula is tax deductible. Okay, I mentioned before this when we do when we want to see the format of income statement tu kan. When we want to calculate the tax tu will be calculated based on earning before tax, whereby the interest element kita dah reduce ataupun kita dah keluarkan daripada calculation. Because of this lah, because of the interest is tax deductible. So therefore, again, the cost of debt tu can be much cheaper lagi lah. Okay. Next, let's look at the actual ratios under the leverage category. So kita ada debt ratio, right? Debt ratio, kita ada debt to equity ratio, and we have times interest earned. So combined with the first category, liquidity, so now we have 6 ratios so far. Okay, so for debt ratio, I try to write sebenarnya kat sini, but still I can't. Maybe I try. Let me try something kat sini. Okay, boleh nampak kot So I'm switching from my computer ni to my tab kat sini. So this is the 3 financial ratios I talk about. Okay, under the leverage, debt to equity dengan times interest earned. Okay, just bear in mind for the debt ratio, they are the alternative name. So for the debt ratio, it is also known as debt to asset ratio. Okay, yang untuk yang pertama tu. Okay. So selain daripada debt ratio, it is also known as debt to asset ratio. So why the name is important? Sebab the name of the ratios, for most of the ratios lah, I can say, the name of the ratio indicates the formula of the ratio as well. Okay. So macam ni, yang kedua ni kita ada debt to equity kan. So ada debt and then ada equity. So kalau kita tengok the alternative name for debt ratio ni debt to asset, dia ada 2 elemen yang sama. Kita ada debt juga and we have assets. So why it's important? Because from the name of the ratio, we can identify what will be the formula of the ratios. So untuk debt ratio, dia ada debts and then dia ada assets. And then the second ratio, dia ada debts and then dia ada equity. Okay, and the third one is times interest earned. So yang ketiga tu totally different from the first two. But let's look at the first one, the debt ratio. Okay, so debt ratio measures the proportion of the firm's total debt to its total assets. Okay, hence the name tadi debt to asset ratio. So that's why ada total debt dengan total assets. So total debt ni simply also known as total liabilities. Okay, total liabilities. So dalam balance sheet, on the right hand side, dia ada starts dengan current liabilities and then they have long-term liabilities kan. So total liabilities basically combination of current plus long-term. So it's lari lah. Okay, bear with me. Ni keburukan guna tab ni tersentuh sikit, dia sensitif. Ni tadi total debt total debt. So total debt ni is basically current liabilities plus long-term liabilities, and it become total liabilities. Okay, it become total liabilities. So this total liabilities ni yang akan jadi total debt. Okay, it will be our total debts, and total asset ni you get directly lah from our income statement. Okay, from our balance sheet. So this indicates the amount of debts in the financial structure, and the higher the percentage associated with the higher risk. So in general, when we talk about debt ratio, we don't want it to be too high lah. Okay, so technically the lower the ratio, the better for the company in terms of managing their risk. Okay, so the answer is in percentage kat bawah ni The answer is in percentage. So the higher the ratio reflects the higher amount of debt to finance the asset. So that's why, as I said, in general, the lower the debt ratio, the better for the company. And when you see the ratio is in percentage macam ni, you kena make sure you multiply the ratio with 100. Okay, multiply your ratio with 100 in order to get it in percentage. Okay, second types of ratio is known as debt to equity ratio. So similarly, dia ada debt element. So that element adalah total liabilities. Then they have equity. So equity adalah dia punya total equity. So kalau you ingat balik lah the structure of your balance sheet, you have assets kat sini. Then you have liability on top, and then you have equity at the bottom kat sini kan. Right, so kalau formula yang first tadi it's debt to asset, so you ambil liability ni, you bahagi dengan total asset yang kat belah sini. Okay, for this one ratio ni tadi. Okay, you ada total debt, you bahagi dengan total assets. Okay, liability on the right hand side kat sini, and then you bahagi dengan asset yang kat sini. Oh ni kan. Right, but for this debt to equity is technically measures all the right hand side sahaja. So you measure the liabilities, the total debt on the right hand side, the top part, and you're going to divide dengan equity yang dekat bawah ni. So both on the right hand side. Okay, so debt to equity measures the amount of debt utilized relative to the capital provided by the owners. So capital provided by the owners ni lah equity. Inilah dia, equity. And ratio greater than 1.0 indicates that the firm have used more debts than equity. So kalau dia punya debt tu lagi besar daripada equity, maknanya yang kat atas ni is higher than the equity. So automatically bila you calculate mathematically, your ratio will be more than 1. Okay, ataupun bila you convert into percentage, bila you darab 100 kat sini, the ratio percentage will be more than 100% lah. Because your debt is more than your equity. Okay, tapi kalau the other way around, if your debt is lesser than equity, so your ratio will be less than 1. Okay, less than 1, which is will be lesser than 100% lah, 90, 80, 70 and whatever lah. Okay. So again, the higher the ratio is less desirable. Kita tak nak ratio dia terlalu tinggi. So therefore, the lower the better. So sama macam debt to asset, that ratio, the lower the ratio, the better. Okay. And the explanation, the answer is in percentage. The higher the ratio reflects the higher amount of debt in the capital structure. So what is capital structure? This is capital structure. Okay. Capital structure tu boleh nampak how you manage ataupun how you structure your distribution of assets to financed by liability or even equity. Alright. So the third ratio, okay, ratio yang ketiga, it's called times interest earn. Okay, times interest earn is different from the first two, whereby kalau the first two, the lower the ratio, the better. Okay, the lower the score, the better for the company. But when we talk about times interest earn, the higher the better. Higher ratio is desirable. Okay, higher ratio is desirable because it indicates higher margin of safeties. But times interest earn is actually measures the ability of the company to make payments to serve the interest charges. Okay, remember some companies who might taking loans or financing, they have to serve the interest ataupun profits. Okay, selalunya interest ni interest ni kadang-kadang tak jumpa dalam annual reports. They might use the words finance cost contohnya. Okay, finance cost ataupun sometimes financing cost. So this finance cost or financing cost is equivalent to interest. Okay, so this cost has to be paid every single time lah. Okay, so the source of fund untuk bayar financing cost ni selalunya datang daripada income of the company, and the specific income that they use is called earning before interest and taxes. Okay, earning before interest and taxes ataupun sometimes kita panggil dia operating cost. Operating profit. Okay, earning before interest and taxes ni adalah operating profit. Okay, so the higher the operating profit, okay, the more capability of the firms to make payments. Okay, dia boleh terimalah dia punya so-called financing cost ni dengan lebih mudah, and therefore the chances ataupun the chances for them to be default is even lower. So that's why untuk times interest earn, the higher the ratio, the better for the company. Okay, unlike the first two. The first two tadi, debt ratio dengan debt to equity ratio, the lower the better. But for times interest earn, the higher the better. Okay, let's look at example lah, contohnya. So if I recall last time kita gunakan December 2018 lah as our example, and we've done last time current ratio dengan quick ratio ni kita dah buat, okay, based on our first two ratio under liquidity. Moving on to the next category, kita ada leverage just now, second category, and in this question December 2018 kan, December 2018 ini the next two adalah the leverage. So kita ada tiga tadi kan, but for this question they ask for two, which is debt ratio ni, okay, debt ratio, and we also have times interest earned. Okay, times interest earned. Okay, so for the debt ratio, what information that we need? Okay, you have to help me jugalah untuk kira. So for debt ratio, remember, we need to know the total liabilities, the total debts. So dekat statement of financial position ni, in order to get the total liabilities, we have to add all of this information from the top account payable ni up sampai long term debt. Okay, sampai long term debt kat sini. So all of this would be our total liabilities ataupun total debt. Okay, or total debt lah. Okay, so 16,000 plus 4,000 plus 10,000 plus 14,000 and 120,000. So long term debt. So nanti tolong kirakan semua information ni, 16 plus 4 plus 10 plus 14 plus 14. Berapa?
194,300.
194,300.
194.
Then. Okay, 194,300. That will be our total debts. Okay, and we need satu lagi information untuk debt ratio adalah asset. So total asset tak payah kira lah. It's here, 367,000. So if you want to calculate, I have to find a place nak tulis ni. Katakanlah kira kat sini debt ratio, debt ratio kat sini. So our total debt was 194,300, kan? 194,300, and our total asset is 367,000. Ataupun kita yang lupa darab 100 Okay, darab 100. Berapa ni? 194,300 divided by 367,000 multiply with 100. $52.94. Okay. Betul Kalau ada jawapan lain beritahu tak kira ni. I assume this is correct. 52.94%. So in comparison, the debt ratio of the industry average is at 55%. Okay, memang tak jauh beza, but still the ABM motorist debt ratio is slightly lower than 55%. Okay, so kita dah dapat kita punya ratio, so we need to comment on the ratio jugalah to evaluate the performance. So we can say that ABM motorist debt ratio is lower than ataupun better than the industry average, which indicates that ABM motorist has lower dependency on using debt to finance its assets. You boleh guna macam itulah terms to comment, ataupun you boleh tengok dalam the notes tadi. Kalau tengok notes tadi kan, kat bawah tu ada dia punya comment, then you can use that one as well to make comment. So one of the indicators of that ratio is kebergantungan ataupun dia dependency on using debts in financing their assets. So lagi rendah bermaksud kebergantungan dia rendah lah. So in this case is 52, almost 53%, still lower than the industry average. So kebergantungan dia ataupun dependency dia is less as compared to the industry average. Okay, sebab ingat tadi the lower the ratio, the better. So dalam case ni, ABM motorist is better lah in utilizing the debts in purchasing the assets. Okay, tu satu, debt ratio. Next, we have to calculate the times interest earned. Okay, times interest earned dia, kita gunakan earning before interest and tax, and also the interest itself. Okay, untuk soalan ni dia agak tricky sedikit. Tricky in the sense that if you notice, earning before interest and taxes is not given in the statement. Okay, earning before interest and taxes. So kat mana tulis Katakanlah tulis dekat bawah ni Okay, times interest earn times interest earn, TIE, dia patutnya earning before interest and taxes bahagi dengan interest. Okay, itu formula dia lah. And interest, straightforward. Interest kat sini 9,006. Okay, it's given there, straightforward. But ataupun kalau kita tengok below it, kita ada earning before tax. So this is EBT. Okay, earning before tax. So some cases sebelum ni, contohnya during this specific final exam, dia tak perasan ataupun dia tak aware, dia ingat EBT ni lah EBIT. No, this is earning before tax. So EBT ni mengambil kira deduction ataupun deduction of interest in the statement. So EBT ni dah remove interest. Okay, so sebenarnya earning before interest and tax berada in between of interest dengan operating expenses ni. So EBIT tu sepatutnya ada dekat sini, kat tengah-tengah. Padam balik, tulis betul sikit. Okay. EBIT. So sepatutnya dekat situ. In between of interest dengan operating expenses. So how to find this EBIT? There are two ways. Sama ada you nak kira daripada atas ke bawah or from bottom up. Okay. So kalau daripada bottom up, simply ambil EBT. Sebab EBT ni earning before tax. So in order to get earning before interest and tax, so kita kena masuklah interest dalam EBT ni. So kalau nak masuk interest dalam EBT, what you need to do, you add 399,700 plus 9,006. So berapa tu? 399,700 plus 9,006.
409,300.
409,300. That's EBIT. That's one way to do it. Or you can use from top to bottom lah. Top to bottom, which is gross profit. Okay, gross profit less operating expenses. Pun you akan dapat EBIT lah. So meaning 499,300 minus 90,000, you're going to get the same answer. 409,300. Okay, so you boleh kira daripada sini ke sini, tapi you minus. Or you can kira from bottom up, macam ni. Okay. Kalau bottom up ke atas macam ni, you kena plus. Okay, but you're going to get the same answer lah, 409,300 as your earning before interest and taxes. So once you get this, then baru boleh kira lah. Times interest earn you 409,300, and you're going to divide it with interest. Interest dia tadi 9,006. So berapa ni?
Empat 2.64.
2.64 times. Okay, thank you Naufal juga. Give your answer kat situ. So 42.64 42.64 times. Okay, times. Dia punya ni pun times. So untuk times interest earn, okay, the higher the ratio, the better. Okay, so what does it mean? ABM Authorities ability to serve its debts ataupun to service its debt is better and higher than the industry average. Sebab industry average ada 35 times, 35 times. Okay, but for ABM Authorities, dia ada capability 42 daripada total earning before interest and tax dia. Ada 40, almost 43 times, 43 kali ganda. Okay, so maknanya kat sini apa? For every RM1 debt, they have 43 ringgit earning before interest and tax untuk bayar this RM1. So it's very strong lah fundamentally. Okay, so kita tak boleh katalah 43 ni very strong ke tak, tapi kalau compare dengan dia punya peers from the industry average, memang dia stronger. 43 kan, 43 is more than 35. Okay, so therefore we can conclude that ABM Authorities has a better ability to make ataupun to service its debts, specifically to service the loan charges, sebab dia punya measurement adalah on the interest, on the financing cost kan. So therefore dia punya ability to serve its loan charges ataupun the financing cost better than the industry average. Okay, so that's how we comment ataupun evaluate the performance with regards to the times interest earn. Okay, so that's the leverage. The second category, leverage, all related dengan hutang. Okay, the first two debt ratio dengan debt to equity, nak tengok the structure, kebergantungan juga kepada hutang. And the third ratio times interest earned is to their capability and their ability to service the interest on the debts. Okay, so untuk times interest earned, the higher the better. Let's go back to kategori yang seterusnya, which is activity. So for the activity ratio, we are going to measure how efficient and how effective the managers, the internal managers of the company, the management of the company, in utilizing the resources in generating sales. Okay, so untuk aktiviti ni kebanyakannya kita akan tengok resources yang ada. So resources ni apa? Selalunya melibatkan their assets and how they uses their assets in generating sales. So for activity ratios, most of the ratios again, the higher the ratio, the better. Kecuali for one ratio whereby when we talk about activity, salah satu activity yang dia nak measure adalah in terms of collection. How good the company do their collections, okay, especially when they do credit sales. How fast they can generate their returns ataupun their income, okay, and convert it into cash lah, basically. Right, so these ratios look at the manager's effectiveness and managing the resources, namely the assets. Sebab assets ada banyak, ada fixed asset, ada total assets, ada current assets, specifically yang kita akan measure in terms of the inventory contohnya, okay, and how they utilize these assets and convert it into sales, and how they manage their operations. Okay, so untuk kategori ni ada 5. Okay, so 3 plus 3 plus 5, so far we have 11 ratios. So under the activity ratios, we have ACP, average collection period. Selalunya kita short formkan dia sebagai ACP lah, average collection period. So this is the only ratio that the indicator kita akan gunakan dalam hari, in days, dalam hari. And when we talk about collection, obviously kita nak collect our sales tu as soon as possible. Okay, so therefore our ACP, the measurement kita nak dia serendah mungkin, as low as possible. So therefore the lower the ratio, the better for the company lah when we talk about ACP. Okay, but the rest ada 4 turnovers ni. Okay, account receivable turnover, inventory turnover. So these two, account receivable dengan inventory, if you recall, ni dua-dua dalam current assets. Okay, these two are dalam current assets. And we have fixed asset. Okay, fixed asset tu fixed asset lah ataupun non-current assets. And we have lastly total asset. Total asset adalah combination of current and also fixed. Okay, so these two adalah current asset. Yang ni memang fixed asset lah. So yang last kali ni adalah total assets. Okay, and all measures turnover. Okay, so when you see the word turnover dalam case ni, you boleh associatekan turnover tu dengan sales. So I mentioned tadi kan, this ratio, activity ratios, measuring how effective and how efficient the managers utilizing their resources. So resources dia adalah ni semua adalah resources dia, all the assets in generating sales. Sales dalam case ni diguna perkataan turnover. Okay, so when you see the word turnover, you boleh nampak lah nanti akan ada contohnya account receivable, dia gunakan formula ataupun items account receivable, and dia akan gunakan turnover, which is sales dalam formula dia. Okay, so the name of the ratio will indicate to you what will be the item dalam so-called ratio ataupun formula dia. Okay, but let's look at each of the ratios. So the first one is called ACP tadi, average collection period. So it determines the average length of time taken by the firm to collect its debt from the credit sales. So macam cakap tadi lah, the lower the number of days taken, so the better for the company lah. So kalau number dia terlalu tinggi, higher ratio, indicates they might have problems ataupun they are struggling to do their collection. Okay, tapi how high is high? So depends on industry. Ada industri yang mungkin memang expected untuk dapat payment dia lama. Okay, ada certain industry mungkin memang very quick. So again, in order to do a fair comparison, that's why kita kena compare dengan company yang falls in the same industry yang sama. So kalau industri yang sama, company A versus company B, kalau company A ni collect cepat tapi company B ni lambat, then we can see already lah, company B ni yang struggling dengan collection sebab dia punya policy tu mungkin, in terms of the credit policy ni mungkin something wrong dengan dia punya the company's punya policy lah, especially when we talk about the collection policy. Okay, sebab when we talk about credit policy, dia ada 3 benda in terms of how they set the standards. Okay, the standard ni selalunya involve how they measure ataupun how they assess the customer before they giving out credit. Sebab bila nak bagi credit to customer, kita tak boleh simply bagi everybody credit. Mungkin some company tu deserve to get credit from us, ataupun ada certain lagi mungkin kita tak boleh bagi credit sebab mungkin risiko dia terlalu tinggi because they have problems with their cash flows, they have problems with creditor yang lain sebelum ni. So takkan kita nak bagi credit to this kind of customers. So you have to set your standards. So once you dah buat your assessment, you dah tengok okay customer ni boleh dapat credit from us, then we're going to give them the terms. So credit term ni selalunya akan tengok 2 benda lah. Terms ni selalunya tempoh credit, the credit terms. Ya, credit terms ni selalunya dalam tempoh in terms of days lah, berapa hari tempoh kredit. Let's say example 30 days. 30 days of credit. So you jual to your customer and you allow them, the customer, to make payments dalam tempoh 30 hari dari date of invoice contohnya. Itulah terms, terma dia. Terms ni ada 2 maksud. Terma, terms. Satu lagi tempoh, how many terms, how long kan. So dalam case yang ni, terms ni adalah terma, tapi yang credit terms saya letak ni, second ni adalah how many days, the long, the period lah basically. And selain daripada days, okay, sometimes bila kita dah bagi customer bayar credit, sometimes as a company we want to recover our money very fast. Okay, so in order to encourage our customer to pay their credit ni quickly, sometimes we have to sacrifice in terms of giving out discounts. Okay, so mungkin juga you boleh masukkan element of discount kat dalam ni in order for you to encourage customer to pay early. So discount pun boleh masuk dalam credit terms, terma dia lah. Okay, so contoh credit terms yang available, I boleh tulis macam ni, 3, 10, and 30. Okay, ni contoh credit terms, terma. This is the terms of our credit. So what does it mean? I can give 3% discount if the customer pay within 10 days. So 3 ni adalah discount. Okay, discount dia. And 10 days ni adalah dia punya discount period. Discount tu hanya valid untuk 10 hari je. The first 10 days from the invoice date. Okay, but if the customer doesn't pay by the 10 days, okay, hari ke-11 sampai hari ke-30, they have to pay in 30 days. Kena bayar full. Net ni maksudnya they have to pay full in 30 days. Okay, so this is an example of a credit policy. Okay, so yeah, so dia consist lah standard macam mana dia measure, and then dia bagi credit terms, and lastly the collection policy lah, macam mana dia monitor customer ni bayar ke tidak. But anyway, for ACP, formula dia adalah account receivables bahagi dengan daily sales, right? If you recall dalam balance sheet tadi, and even dalam net income ataupun income statement, there's no daily sales. Yang hanya adalah sales. Sales selalunya dalam statement kita adalah for annual sales. Okay, annual sales. So in order to get daily sales, okay, in finance, you're going to use 360. So 1 year equals to 360 days. Okay, kita assume. Okay, assume in a year equals to 360 days. So therefore, in order to get sales daily, we're going to divide the annual sales dengan 360. So you can divide kat sini lah. 360. Sales ni, kalau you buang daily, sales ni you bahagi dengan 360. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Okay. Dia padam dah. Okay, alternatively, instead of you letak sales ni and divide by 360 kat sini, you can multiply with 360 outside of the numerator dengan denominator ni. Then you're going to get the same answer as well. Okay, so I think this is much easier sebab kalau you tahu tadi in percentage, you darab 100 in order to get it in percentage. But when you want to find in days, you hanya darab dengan 360. Then you're going to get your answer in days. Okay, lagi mudah lah, I guess. Okay, so like I said, the lower the ratio, the better sebab menunjukkan kita tak ada masalah in doing our collections. But if the ratio is high, then like I said lah, the firm might struggling in do their collection activity. Okay, then kita kena compare lah juga in order to know whether which one is better. Okay, in short, ACP lagi rendah lagi bagus. Okay. Next, we have all the 4 turnovers yang I mentioned tadi. And remember the turnover, ni, okay, always associated dengan this sales. Alright, so ada perkataan account receivable, we know dia ada account receivable jugalah dalam formula. Okay, so for the rest of the turnovers, the answer will be in times dalam berapa kali ganda. And again, whenever we measure times, the higher the ratio, the better. Okay, the higher the ratio, the better. So meaning kat sini, kalau the higher the ratio reflect effectiveness in do their collections. Okay, lagi tinggi ratio tu lagi bagus lah, menunjukkan dia lagi efektif in the collection punya activity. Okay, so sales dapat kat mana? Sales from the income statement. Account receivable dapat kat mana? In the current assets under balance sheets. Okay, so in fact these two is the reverse of this one. So tadi account receivable dekat atas, sales dekat bawah. So untuk account receivable turnover, dia pun turnover, dia pun terbalik. So sales di atas, account receivable di bawah. Okay. Cuba tadi we multiply with 360 in order to get in this. Untuk account receivable, we don't have to multiply with anything lah sebab jawapan dia dalam times. Okay, the third ratio. Okay, so for the third ratio, slightly different sebab I letak kat sini star lah sebab again dia ada turnover kat sini. We know kalau I cakap tadi turnover associated dengan sales, and we have inventory. Inventory ada dalam current assets as well. Okay, cuma untuk inventory turnover, instead of using sales, okay, using sales for turnover, we're not using sales in our formula. Instead, we're going to use what we call as cost of goods sold. Okay, untuk inventory turnover sahaja, we use cost of goods sold. Okay, sebab inventory ni selalunya associated dengan the cost of product. Okay, dia bukan depends on sales sebab sales kalau tengok dalam income statement sales selalunya dekat atas sekali. Dan kita akan minus cost of goods sold. Okay, cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold ni based on cost lah. Based on cost. Okay, cost of goods sold ni bergantung kepada cost of the product. Whereas sales ni, dia punya measurement ni based on the selling price. Selling price. So contohnya, ambil inilah stapler contohnya, stapler ni. Right, katakanlah selling price of the stapler is, I don't know, RM2. RM2 contohnya lah. RM2. And I sell 1,000 units. So 1,000 unit of stapler ni. So in general, I akan dapat RM2,000 lah as my sales. My sales is RM2,000 based on RM2 selling price and 1,000 units. And untuk cost of goods sold pula, it based on the cost of this stapler. So cost ni katakanlah, I don't know, 50 cent, katakanlah, 50 sen. And the unit sama, 1000. So 1000 berapa? Darab ni RM500. Ni RM2000, yang ni RM500. So untuk inventory turnover, sebab dia menggunakan unit from the inventory, so we gonna measure it based on the cost. Cost dia adalah RM500. Okay, cuma when we talk about inventory turnover, we might use sales amount. Okay, kalau cost of goods sold ni tak ada dalam statement. Kalau tak ada, then we have to use inventory turnover. Okay, we might have to use inventory turnover. So that's why untuk inventory turnover ni is either cost of goods sold or sales. Dia letak or kat sini kan, ada perkataan or kat sini. Okay, tapi priority will be given using cost of goods sold. Okay, cuma alternatively, if we don't have cost of goods sold amount, then we use sales. Okay, tapi dalam your case, most of the time cost of goods sold tu ada. Okay, sometimes they use the word cost of sales, saya beritahu tadi kan. Sebelum ni, cost of sales. Sometimes they use the word cost of sales. So cost of sales kan sama juga lah dengan cost of goods sold. So you use this one in order to calculate the inventory turnover. So sama, still we have inventory dalam formula as per the name of the ratio. Okay, so untuk inventory turnover, similarly the answer will be in times. The higher the ratio, the better, which indicates the effectiveness of the firm to utilize the inventory in order to generate sales. Okay, dia gunakan inventory to generate sales. Okay, so this is, I think, the third ratio for the category. And the final two ratios, okay, the final two ratios, we go back to the original, whereby the turnover tu equivalent to sales, and the word fixed asset ni akan jadi dia punya denominator lah kat bawah ni. So hence the name turnover ni. Turnover ni macam cakap lah, selain daripada turnover equals to sales, the positions of the ratio tu pun terbalik. So instead of fixed asset, contohnya you bahagi turnover bagi sales, you flip kan position dia, yang turnover ataupun sales ni yang ada dekat atas, the fixed asset yang the first name of the ratio tu will become the denominator. Okay, so again the answer will be in times. The higher the ratios indicates how effective the managers utilize the fixed asset. Dia tukar ni je, utilize fixed asset to generate sales. Kalau tadi utilize inventory to generate sales, ni fixed asset to generate sales. So kalau yang terakhir ada total assets turnover, formula dia akan jadi sales bagi total assets. Okay, yang kelima fixed asset turnover. Okay, sales bagi total assets, and dia punya explanation will be tukar ini je lah, reflect effectiveness of using total assets to generate sales. Yang kelima, total asset turnover, sales bagi total assets, and dia tukar ni je, total assets, sales pun sama. And then the higher the ratio pun sama lah, the better. So all the four turnover ratios, lagi tinggi ratio dia, lagi bagus for the company. It shows that they are more effective lah in managing their, macam saya cakap tadi lah, managing their resources in generating sales. Alright, so I think itu untuk kategori yang ketiga. And again, if you go back to this, okay, katakanlah I padam lah ni tadi dah dapat kan. Oh, I write it here just in case if you want to see that ratio tadi, 52. Uh, 52.94% kat sini. Ini tadi 42.64. Okay, just for the sake of comparison. So I'm gonna rub it off the formula ni. We're moving on to the next category tadi, which is the biar je ini before interest and taxes. We move on dengan the third category tadi, the activity ratio. So the activity ratios kat dalam soalan ni still ada dua, which is the ACP, average collection period, and also the inventory turnover. Okay, so these are the two ratios. Walaupun dia ada 5 tadi kan, we have 5, but the question only ask for 2. Okay, so ACP ni confirm most of the time during the final exam dulu memang dia akan tanya lah ACP, average collection period. Okay, so if you recall the formula for ACP, we need to know the account receivable, account receivable, and we need to know the sales, 800. So if I write ACP to di sini, okay, so account receivable dia 30,000. Okay, and the sales is 800. And we multiply with 360. Okay, in order to get it in days, and remember kita guna 360 in assumption. Okay, in assumption to 1 year lah, 360. Tolong kirakan berapa ni? 30,000 divided by 800,000 and 800 and multiply with 360. 13 point. Okay, I letak 13.5 lah Yes. Almost close to 14 days. Almost 2 weeks lah. So dalam ni reference kita 20 hari. Okay, our industry average will take 20 days. Okay, so mana lagi bagus between 13.5 days dengan 20 days. So obviously ABM or trees lah. ABM or trees. Okay, thank you Azwar. So ABM or trees ada lagi cepat, the ACPs, faster than the industry average. So what can we say, what can we comment, what can we evaluate the performance of ABM or trees with regards to ACP? Kita boleh cakap lah ABM or trees average collection period is faster ataupun better than the industry average, whereby the company only takes 30 days in comparison of 20 days of the industry average. So this indicates that the company has better ability to do their collections in comparison of the industry average. Okay, sebab bila kita cerita pasal ACP is basically how effective dia do their collection activity. So lagi cepat bermaksud lagi bagus lah for the company to recover their sales, especially credit sales, and convert it into cash. Okay, so maknanya customer bayar cepat lah. Okay, faster than the industry average. So ACP dia 13 hari. Okay, 30 days lah, letak kat sini 30 days. 13 and a half, in fact, 13 and a half. Okay, so next is inventory turnover. So inventory turnover, remember we use cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold dia ada sebab ada cost of goods sold, we use 301,500 ni lah. Okay, we use 301,500. Tekan padam ni, need more space to write. So for inventory turnover, I letak ITO, inventory turnover. So the formula based on cost of goods sold dia 301,500. 301,500. And our inventory from the balance sheet adalah 50,000. Okay, inventory dia adalah 50,000. So we divide with 50,000. So tolong kira 301,500 divided by 50,000, 6.03 ya. 6.03 times. Okay, 6.03 times. So I letak kat sini ya. 6.03 times. So inventory turnover of the industry is 8 times. So meaning in comparison, ABM Tree's ability ataupun effectiveness to convert inventory into sales is less, okay, ataupun lower than the industry average. Okay, so sebab inventory turnover ni adalah measurement of how effective the firms converting their inventory into sales. Okay, so dalam case ni it's lower. Okay, pun less effective lah, we can say the words less effective as comparison to the industry average. Okay, so that's the two of activity ratios under the activity ratios. Okay, ada dua saja. Walaupun kita ada 5 tadi but we just do the 2 sajalah. Okay, we just do the 2. Alright, I think let's take a break before we move on to the fourth category. The fourth category adalah profitability ratios. Okay, profitability ratios. Okay, so profitability ratios, kita akan break kejap sebelum kita continue dengan profitability lah. So let's take 5. Okay, kita ambil 5 minit macam tu lah untuk break before kita continue dengan profitability. But again, for those yang belum sign in ataupun masih belum boleh nak log in contohnya to the future, try log in to the future to to log in ataupun to register your attendance. In the meantime, kita take 5 kejap. Right, thank you. All right, let's proceed with the fourth category. Try. Okay, the fourth category is called profitability. Right, so it measures the relative success of the firm that is combined the effect that we've the ones that we've go through before. Kita ada liquidity, activity, and also leverage. So it's combination of all three, and we're gonna see the overall results. Okay, operating result especially, and profitability is one of the main indicators juga lah. When we want to measure the performance of the company, obviously one of the main thing is actually profitability. And most of the ratios under the profitability punya kategori ni, the higher the better is preferred. Especially when we talk about the income lah, the profits. But there's one measurement dalam profitability ratio ni that we use ataupun we measure the expenses. So bila kita cerita pasal expenses, obviously the lower the better. When we talk about income, the higher the better, the profits. But when we talk about expenses, obviously the lower the better. Okay, so these are among the things that we gonna explore lah, in terms of how to maximize the wealth of the owners, the ability to attract outside capital, and also the ability to sustain the growth, especially when we talk about the net profit lah. Okay, the net profit. So here we have 5 different ratios: gross profit margin, operating profit margin, the operating ratio, the net profit margin, and 2 returns: return on equity and return on assets. Right. Let's find some similarity. So similarity yang ada kat sini first adalah when we talk about the margin. Ada 3 ratio yang ada margin kat sini. Okay, so I can write again kat sini. Kalau tadi kita ada turnover asset is equivalent ataupun associated dengan sales. So here margin pun kita gunakan dia sebagai sales lah. Walaupun margin tu sometimes kita nak tengok the profit margin contohnya is the difference between the cost dengan the selling price contohnya lah kan, to get the margin ataupun the profit. Tapi dalam ni margin ni kita nak tengok dia the difference between the gross profit and marginal dia adalah sales. Okay, so when we talk about gross profit margin, so you know akan ada gross profit, akan ada sales. Similarly, operating profit, ada operating profit, ada sales. And the third one ada net profit and kita ada sales. So by the name of the ratio, kita dah boleh agaklah formula dia apa. Okay, ada gross profit dengan sales. Ada net profit together with sales. Okay. Untuk return pula, there are 2 returns kat sini kan. Return on equity dengan return on assets. So return kat sini, return kita boleh associatekan dia dengan net profit. Okay, net profit. So tadi ada net profit margin. So selepas net profit margin, semua return ni akan menggunakan net profit as well as the formula. Okay, so kalau return on equity is net profit on equity, net profit bahagi equity. So kalau return on asset is net profit bahagi dengan total assets. Something like that. Okay, let's go through one by one. So as I mentioned tadi, margin tu sales, so that's why formula dia gross profit bahagi dengan sales. So it measures the ability of the firm to control the variable cost in the component which is based on the cost of goods sold. Okay, remember tadi kot I cerita pasal stapler tu kan, whereby we have the sales based on the selling price, and then we have cost of goods sold based on the cost. Okay, yes. Ada tanya ke? Nurul Farzana? Nur Farzana, you raise your hands ke tertekan? Kalau tertekan, I proceed je lah dulu . So the measurement will be in percentage. Okay, will be in percentage. So therefore, whenever you see the percentage, you kena darab dengan 100 lah. Okay, tertekan. Kalau tertekan, you apa panggil? Unraise your hand lah. So very straightforward. Gross profit ni ambil dekat mana? Gross profit ni is in the income statement. Selalunya in the third level. So selalunya we starts dengan sales and then cost of goods sold and then you get gross profit. Okay, so technically it's the gross profit divided by the very top item, which is sales. So the higher the ratio indicates higher contribution of margin ataupun higher conversion of gross profit from your sales. Okay, so yeah, that's the first one. Second is operating profit margin. So operating profit is also known as earning before interest and taxes. Ni ada explain tadi dalam earlier ratio masa kita calculate leverage tadi times interest earn, kita ambil earning before interest and taxes bahagi interest. So nama lain of earning before interest and taxes adalah operating profit. So it's measures of the EBIT relative to sales, sama juga. So the higher the ratio is preferred as it indicates a lower cost of structure and will result in higher profits. Okay, so higher ratio indicates better productivity with regards to the operation. Sebab kita ambil the profit after taking into consideration all the operating expenses. Okay, operating expenses. So operating profit bahagi dengan sales juga. Okay, and then don't forget to multiply with 100 in order to get it in percentage. Okay, I skip this one first. Okay, I nak settlekan the third margin ratio. So sometimes ratio, sometimes kita gunakan margin lah kat sini, net profit margin. Okay, kat sini kita guna margin. So net profit margin sama juga, still gunakan sales. Okay, but now we use net profit. Okay, earnings after tax, sometimes known as net profit, NP, net profit, sometimes is also known as net income, NI, net income. So any terms will do. Kadang-kadang ada buku guna earnings after tax, some might use net profits, some might use net income. So all referring to the same thing. Okay, referring to the same thing. So again, higher the ratio is better as it indicates higher ability for the firm to obtain profits and better income to the shareholders because the net income is distributable to the shareholders. Okay, walaupun tak semua net income will be given to the shareholders, tapi there will be some portions of the net income will be given. Okay, distributable, attributable to the shareholders. Okay, so that's why it's important measurement lah, especially for the investors and also the owners of the company. Okay, the owner tu siapa? The shareholders lah. Okay. Then we revert ataupun we reverse back to the fourth ratio technically, the operating ratio. So operating ratio ni the only ratio dalam profitability yang lagi rendah lagi bagus. Lower ratio is desirable. Sebab apa? Sebab kita measure the expenses. We measure the cost. Okay, the rest of the profitability we measure the income, the profits. Okay, tapi untuk operating ratio we measure the expenses. So therefore, bila kita cerita pasal better management of expenses, lagi rendah lagi bagus lah. So that's why the answer still in percentage, but lower ratio indicates better efficiency. Okay, especially in managing their operating expenses. Okay, so apa dalam operating expenses? Kalau ingat sebelum ni, with regards to wages, okay, dari segi bayar gaji pekerja, salaries, wages, in terms of marketing, in terms of utilities, rental and so on. So imagine this is a conversion. So lagi banyak sales, tapi in order to generate sales, so kita kena invest a lot in expenses. So your operating ratio akan turun. Okay, ataupun vice versa, patutnya naik lah. Okay, kalau sama banyak. Okay, tapi kalau kita punya expenses tu low, but our sales is high, so maknanya kita menggunakan expenses yang sedikit in order to generate high sales, then it will lower down our ratio. So bila our operating ratio turun, lower, so kita boleh simplifykan that this company is running in better efficiency sebab dia tidak memerlukan expenses yang besar untuk generate certain amount of sales. Tapi kalau company to spend a lot of expenses tetapi sales dia rendah, indicates that the ratio akan tinggi. So therefore, it is not efficient for the company. So that's why under operating ratio, we want it to be as low as possible. Right, and the final two ratios adalah return on assets and return on equity. So remember tadi I cakap, when we see return, okay, in the formula, we are looking at the net profit. So I tulis balik kat sini net profit ataupun net income, NI. Okay, so mana-mana terms saja yang ada dalam soalan tu ataupun dalam statement yang you tengok, sometimes they use earnings after tax, sometimes they might use net income in their statement, okay, but they are referring to the same thing. Also known as ROI, return on investment, it measures the overall effectiveness of the management in generating profits using the assets. Okay, so kalau dia efficient in utilizing asset, banyaklah net profit dia. Okay, so therefore the higher the ratio, the better. So higher ratio indicates higher returns on the ROI dia lah, on the assets investment. Okay, so answer in percentage, jangan lupa darab dengan 100 juga. Okay, in fact semua ratios under profitability all in percentage. So meaning everything must be multiplied with 100. And finally, the number 6 is return on equity, ROE. The numerator sama, gunakan net income, net profit. Okay, cuma denominator we use equity. Okay, kalau ROA using assets, ROE we use equity. Okay, and the answer still in percentage. Higher ratio indicates higher possible returns to the shareholders. Sebab shareholders, dia punya input appear dalam equity. Okay, dalam equity ni dia akan appear lah the shareholders part. Sebab dalam equity ni ada the number of shares outstanding kat situ. Right? Okay, so that's the 6 ratio under profitability. So dah berapa tadi? 3 plus 3 plus 5 dah 11 plus 6, 17. So the first 4 categories ada 17 ratios so far. Okay, and in fact under profitability ratio ni lah the last category yang selalunya ada dalam final exam. Okay, kalau kita recap balik kat sini, these two under dalam liquidity ratio, these two adalah leverage, yang ni tadi these two adalah activity, and these two yang terakhir ni adalah profitability. Okay, profitability dekat net profit dengan return on assets. Okay, so let's look at net profit margin dulu. Net profit margin. Net profit margin, formula dia adalah net profit dengan sales. So net profit ataupun net income, in this case is 239,820. So this is your net profit. And the margin adalah sales. So sales dia 800. Okay, so it's in percentage, so multiply with 100. So tolong kirakan 239,820 divided by 800 times 100. %29.95%, okay, or close to 30%. 29.95%. Okay, so again from here you can see lah, ABM Mortuary's net profit margin is better than the industry average of 21%. Okay, close to dekat 9% higher. So this indicates that the company's ability, okay, to convert the sales into net profit better to the as compared to the industry average. Okay, industry average hanya 21%, but for ABM Motories, close to 30%. Okay, close to 30%. And then last one is ROA, return on asset. So return ni sama, 239,820. Cuma total asset dia 367,000. So berapa ni? Above 50% obviously. Two, 65.35%. Thank you. So 65.35%. So the one I wrote dekat sini is basically ABM Motories punya ABM punya. Confused pula. So this one pun ABM. Cuma yang the first tu kita buat last week. So the ones yang dalam soalan adalah the industry average. The one yang I wrote is for ABM Motories based on our calculation together tadi. Okay, so ROA pun sama. ABM Motories return on assets is much better than the industry with a 65.35% as compared to 50% of the industry average. So this indicates that the company's ability to convert their net profits from their assets better than the industry average. Okay, daripada total assets yang dia ada 800,000 tu, asset dia berapa? 367,000 tu is their assets. Dia boleh generate 239,000. So about 65% daripada value tu dia berjaya generate as net profit, bukan sebagai gross profit net profit yang dah kira bersih selepas tolak all the interest, tolak tax semua. Untung bersih 65%. So it's considered better than the competitor lah ataupun the industry average of 50% saja. So half. Okay. So it has about 15% higher. Right, so that's how you do ratios, okay, based on the first 4 categories so far. Okay, and as I mentioned sebelum ni juga, during final exam memang dia akan tanya for kategori ni sahaja. They will not ask for more than these 4 categories. Okay, but for you guys, okay, we have to explore the fifth one, the fifth category, market ratios as well. Sebab market ratios ni, in order for us to calculate, we need more information, as I told you last week, 2 weeks ago. Kenapa? Sebab market ratios ni only applicable for public traded companies ataupun public listed companies sahaja, whereby additional information required. What kind of information? We need to know their share prices. We need to know the number of shares outstanding, for example. So all of this information tak ada dalam balance sheet, tak ada dalam income statement. So we need to find it in other sources lah. Okay, including sebenarnya dalam annual report tu ada. You might need to find it in the notes of the annual reports, or some of the information macam share prices kita boleh tengok dekat all the investment platforms yang ada lah in the internet. Okay, free of charge. Okay, so under this final category, we have another 6. Okay, so finally after kita ambil all 5 categories, in total we had about 23 ratios altogether, 23 ratios. So 17 tadi, plus another 6, so 23 in total. So here we have earning per share, dividend per share, dividend payout ratio, dividend yield, BVPS, book value per share, and lastly price earning ratio ataupun PE ratio. Right. Some of this information still kita kena tengok dekat income statement, dekat balance sheet, and some the additional information yang macam saya bagi tahu tadi lah. Alright, so for example, like this one, the first one, earning per share. Okay, we need to know the number of common shares. So benda ni tak nampak dalam balance sheet, tak nampak dalam income statement. So selalunya dekat income statement tu ada, after the company letak dia punya net income ataupun net profit, selalunya the next one, selalunya dia akan letak the amount of dividend dibayar. Okay, so dalam dividend tu ada notes. So dalam notes tu dia akan mention lah, dividend ni dibayar ke berapa number of shares available in the market. So number of common shares ni, okay, selalunya kita guna terms NOSO. NOSO ni adalah singkatan daripada number of shares outstanding. Number of shares outstanding ataupun NOSO. Okay. Number of shares outstanding. So number of shares outstanding tu is the same as number of common shares lah basically sebab kejap lagi tengok ada yang diguna terms shares outstanding, so it's basically the same thing. Okay, so the measurement of EPS, earning per share, adalah earnings after tax. Remember tadi earnings after tax ni apa? Net profit ataupun net income. Okay, untung bersih of the company, and they divide it with number of stocks ataupun number of shares outstanding ataupun number of common shares. Okay, the answer is in ringgit. So dalam kes kita ringgit lah Ringgit Malaysia. Okay, whereby the higher the ratio indicates better incomes per share basis. Sebab dia ambil net profit and then they divide dengan number of shares available in the market. Remember, in Malaysia, in the stock market, the trade always happen in lot basis. Okay, satu lot, one lot of stocks equivalent to 100 units. So imagine lah how many thousands of lots ada dekat bursa Malaysia tu, multiply with 100 units. So you might end up having number of shares outstanding, thousands or even millions of shares in the market lah. So berapa jumlah profit company tu dapat, and then divide by number of common stock ataupun number of shares outstanding in the market per ringgit basis, then that is the amount lah of earning per share. Okay, so katakanlah kalau kita nak kira mudah just for illustration purposes, katakanlah net profit dia 5 million ringgit, and then dia punya NOSO is 1 million units. Ni ringgit untung 5 juta, dia punya number of shares outstanding 1 million. So 5 million divided by 1 million equals to RM ringgit. This is earning per share contohnya lah. So earning per share 5 million divided by 1 million units, then you're gonna get 5 ringgit. So 5 ringgit earning per share, meaning untuk setiap satu unit of share in the market, dia punya earning dia adalah 5 ringgit. Contohnya lah, for simple illustration. Okay, so this is earnings per share. So taking into consideration the net profit of the company generates. So kalau satu unit tu berapa nilai dia net profit. So that's earning per share lah. Second is dividend per share. So it shows the amount of current earnings paid out to the shareholders per share basis. So the one yang kita nak tengok sebenarnya ni lah dividend. Okay, specifically cash dividend. Okay, sebab dividend ada cash, ada yang non-cash. So dalam case ni kita nak tengok cash dividend dia. Okay, so this information ada dalam annual reports. And then divide dengan shares outstanding. So shares outstanding ni apa? NOSO tadi lah. So if you dapat ni 1 million tadi, contoh bagi 1 million kat sini, NOSO dia 1 million. So kat sini shares outstanding pun 1 million juga. Okay, and this cash dividend selalunya will not be more than the net profit. Okay, tak mungkin dia punya net profit lagi rendah daripada dividen selalunya. In the most common condition, memang selalunya dividen ni tak mungkin lebih daripada the net profit. Sebab apa? Sebab macam ni konsep dia. When the company generates net profit, bayangkan net profit kat sini. Okay, imagine this is your net profit. So this net profit, what happen next? Dia akan pecahkan kepada dua selalunya lah. Okay, what they do, this net profit will be distributed, part of it in the form of dividend. Dia akan bayar dividend kat sini. Okay, daripada net profit satu amount di sini, dia akan bayar ataupun dia akan distribute a partial amount from the net profit in the form of dividend. Okay, and the rest of the money from the net profit, dia akan masuk dalam retained earning. Remember last class pun ada tunjukkan retained earning for the year, and then ada accumulated retained earning dalam balance sheet. So this is, we are talking about net profit dan retained earning for the year. So imagine, again for the sake of illustration, imagine net profit company tu adalah 10 million. Okay, nak mudahkan cerita lah, 10 million ringgit. And from this net profit of 10 million, some portion dia akan bayar dividen. Tak mungkin dia akan bayar dividen 10 million tanpa dia simpan reserve dekat retained earning. So usually they will keep some dekat sini. So how much? Katakanlah for the sake of illustration, I letak, I don't know, 4 million kat sini. 4 million in the form of dividend. So the balance from 10 million, dia akan masuk kat dalam retained earning. Okay, ni reserve dia lah. RE ni retained earning, dia akan keep in the business for the future consumption. Okay, so dia simpan lah kat sini for dia punya expansion, dia nak beli new machines in the future, dia boleh gunalah dia punya retained earning ni. Okay, for whatever reason lah, dia boleh gunalah in the future. Right. So that's why I said dividend ni tak mungkin akan lebih besar daripada net profit. So that's why when we do this earning after tax net profit, earning per share, compare dengan dividend per share. So this dividend, cash dividend ni, dalam kes ni contohnya 10 versus 4 kan. So this dividend per share selalunya lagi rendah than the earning per share, because even though they answer in ringgit Malaysia, okay, the higher ratio indicates the firm's management believe that the growth can be sustained. So dia akan bagi the shareholders rewards in the form of dividends. Okay, dia akan bayar dividen yang tinggi lah kepada stockholders ataupun the shareholders. Okay. So the third one is called dividend payout ratio. So the one saya illustrate kat sini, this is actually how the dividend payout ratio is going. Okay, dividend payout ratio tu adalah nak menunjukkan, okay, indicates the amount of current earning. So current earning ni apa? Net profit available to common stockholders and paid out as dividend. So this is the dividend payment tadi. So what is dividend payment? This is dividend payment yang ni, from the net profit. Okay, so in terms of formula, dividend payout ratio is dividend per share divided by earning per share. So if you recall, dividend per share ni tengok kat mana? It's actually from here, from our number 2, dividend per share. So this is DPS, this one, dividend per share, and divide by earning per share. Kan? So divide by earning per share. So the similarity between the two, dua-dua ada noso. Dia ada noso kat sini, dia ada noso kat sini. So if you remove the shares outstanding noso, technically, okay, if you remove the per share basis kat sini, your formula is actually dividend bagi earnings. Earnings ni apa? Earnings ni net profit. So kat sini you boleh sebenarnya ambil je dividend bagi net profit. So kalau you nak cari DPR kat sini, it's actually 0.4, which is 4 million. Saya tulis dulu lah formula dia. it's 4 million divided by 10 million. So it becomes 0.4. 0.4 kat sini lah. Kalau based on this illustration lah, 0.4. So what does it mean? Answer in ringgit ataupun dalam case tadi dia dapat 40 sen je lah. So it indicates that how well the earnings support the dividend payment. Okay, so maknanya dari setiap RM1 profits, dia akan bayar 40 sen in terms of the dividends. Okay, this only applicable kalau you tak kira lagi lah your DPS dengan EPS. If you already have your DPS and EPS contohnya, then you use je lah ringgit bahagi dengan ringgit in order to get the ringgit. Faham kan? Okay, so there are two ways how to find the DPR. Either you use DPS per share ni, DPS divided by EPS ni per share, or you can use the actual ringgit in total. Apa tadi? Dividends, amount of dividend divided by net profits. Okay, either way lah, you can calculate the dividend payout ratio. And just bear in mind, sometimes DPR also can be can be defined lah kot So at least in percentage. Okay, you boleh kira in percentage as well. Okay, for DPR. So kalau 0.4 tadi, you boleh kata 40 cents kan? Kalau based on kat sini, boleh, this is basically 40 cents. Or you boleh tak dia, the percentage 40%. So what does it mean? So for every amount of net profit, 40% will be paid in the form of dividend. Okay, so that's DPR. DPR. Number 4, dividend yield. So dividend yield, still guna dividend per share. Okay, but for this dividend yield, kita tak boleh buang per share basis lah sebab dia punya price ni memang price, market price. Okay, price ni adalah market price. So market price ni kalau kita tengok dalam Yahoo Finance, dalam Bursa Malaysia, dia memang quote per unit basis. Okay, ada certain price RM3.40, ada yang memang 25 cents. So tak boleh lah nak buang per share ni. So therefore, kita nak calculate the dividend yield, kena cari DPS. Okay, based on the earlier calculation lah. Dividend divided by number of shares outstanding. Okay, then baru you dapat per unit basis. Sebab kalau you guna dividend alone, it will be in thousands or even millions. Okay, tak boleh lah nak bahagi dengan price per share basis. Okay, so for this dividend yield, the answer is in percentage. So therefore, kita kena darab dengan 100 lah dekat ujung ni. And again, the higher the ratio, the better. Indicates the percentage returns of investors for every dollar they invest in. Okay, lagi tinggi, lagi bagus for dividend yield. Number 5, BVPS, book value per share. We use common equity. So common equity ni kat mana tengok dalam balance sheet, in the total equity. Okay, in the total equity, and then bahagi dengan also juga number of shares outstanding. So the answer in ringgit, again, the higher the better. Okay, the higher the better. So in the long run, selalunya market price ni akan berada above the BVPS, the book value. Okay, sebab book value ni appears in the accounts. Okay, dalam annual report tu kita boleh nampak lah BVPS dia, tetapi in the market, usually the market price selalunya akan jual higher than the book value. So as an investor, we want this to happen lah. Okay, market price tu above the book value. Okay, kita tak nak lah market price lagi rendah. Okay. And lastly, the PE ratio. So this is another important ratio yang selalunya investor will use as indicators. Price to earning ratio. Okay, so it shows the relationship between the market price and what will be the EPS. EPS ni dalam first ratio tadi, earning per share. So the higher the ratio, okay, jawapan dia dalam times, the higher the ratio indicates that the firm's market price is overvalued. So when we talk about overvaluation, okay, ini dah masuk investment lah. There are two things. From internal point of view and from investor point of view. Internal tu maknanya managers. So managers want the PE ratio to be as high as possible. Okay, sebab bila dia overvalue bermaksud harga di market is more expensive than the actual earnings of the company. Okay, tapi from investors point of view, kalau kita baru nak invest, kita tak nak invest in overvalued stocks sebab PE ratio yang terlalu tinggi indicates that the company tu tak generate returns yang equivalent dengan price dia. Okay, tapi since you guys are in the positions of managers, kita assume you are managing the internal funds, kita nak PE ratio kita setinggi yang boleh lah. Okay. Right. So yeah, that's the 23 ratios. Okay, 23 ratios yang ada. So since I dah explain to you all the 23 ratios, you're actually ready untuk your group assignment. So I wrap up je sekarang ni. Once we've done this topic 3, you are ready for your group assignment, group project. And I hope tomorrow, okay, esok I akan upload the instructions for your group project, and your group project akan based on topic 3 alone sahaja, topic 3. Possibly 23 ratios ni, tapi I akan pilih maybe 10 ratios sahaja out of these 23, and I akan listkan the 10 ratios dalam instructions of the group project. All group members kena pilih satu company, and the company within the group members must be from the same industry. Okay, so contohnya lah, you guys one group pilih telco, telecommunication kan. So all 4 or even 5 members, nanti dalam instruction tu saya akan beritahu, 4 or 5 members, setiap seorang kena pilih company, and that company must be listed in Malaysia sahaja. Okay, traded in Ringgit Malaysia, public listed in Bursa Malaysia, within the same industry, and you have to choose 3 years, 3 tahun sahaja. Okay, 3 years of annual reports lah ataupun financial statements, 3 tahun. So walaupun 3 tahun, you just need to have 2 years of annual report sebab satu annual report akan ada 2 tahun. So for example, if you have 2023 punya annual reports of company A, so dalam tu akan ada tahun 2023 dan 2022. Okay, so you need to find another year. For example, 2021 punya ratio annual report lah. So maknanya 2023 dengan 2021 contohnya. Okay, and you're gonna have to compare. Okay, have to compare. Maybe I tunjuk kat you lah apa ni kejap before I continue. Dalam ni nanti you tengoklah all these example. Tapi kita dah share the example from the actual past year questions. Cuma ni kalau you nak refer balik for your reference macam mana nak kira, so you boleh check lah step by step kat sini. Okay, but from the analysis ni, okay, I mentioned to you there are 3 ways how to interpret the ratios. Number 1 is based on trend analysis ataupun time series. This is where I set minimum 3 ni. Sebab dia punya requirement selalunya 3 to 5 kan, tapi I pilih 3 tahun lah, the minimum, untuk measure proper analysis. Okay, 3 tahun. So that satu company nanti you akan compare 3 tahun punya performance. Okay, and on top of that, you kena compare cross-sectionally. So cross-sectionally ni selalunya either from the industry average ataupun other companies. So other company ni siapa? The peers lah. Peers dalam company tu. Ataupun peers dalam industri tu. So kalau dalam telco adalah telco A, telco B, telco C, telco D. So mungkin sekarang telco dah tak berapa banyak. Yang dah ada yang dah merge. So limited lah companies yang you nak compare. So kat mana nak tengok industri ataupun sektor? Okay, dalam Bursa Malaysia lah. So you have to refer dalam Bursa Malaysia. Bursa Malaysia. Dia ada sektor dia. Okay, dia ada mention sampai jadi berubah. Okay, dia ada sektor that you can look into. Adalah sektor financial services, ada sektor manufacturing, ada plantation, macam-macam lah. Ada macam-macam sektor yang you boleh pilih. And setiap group yang dah pilih sektor tu, yang lain tak boleh lah. So it must be unique. Setiap group akan pilih sektor yang berbeza, and bila dah pilih sektor tu ada 4 members contohnya, so each member will have different companies dalam tu. Okay, I tak boleh lah bagi contoh, nanti kan bila bagi contoh tu you tak boleh dah pakai company ataupun sektor tu as your group kan. So I don't want to pick any companies or sector, tapi you can imagine lah, one industry, one sector, and then choose 4 different companies within the same industry or sector for all the members. So kalau group tu 4 orang, ada 4 company lah. Kalau ada 3 orang dalam group tu, akan ada 3 companies lah. If they have 5 contohnya, akan ada 5 companies lah. Okay, so nanti tengok dalam instructions. And the one that we're going to use is actually the third one, combine. Okay, sebab apa combine? You're going to have 4 different companies, 3 years each. Okay, 4, 5, 3 depending on group members lah. Okay, so comparative between 3, 4, 5 companies and for 3 years. Okay, trend analysis ni adalah 3 tahun. So therefore they combine sebab it is most informative, sebab they combine lah comparative together with the trend analysis. So walaupun di group, okay, di group memang group project, tapi setiap orang member kena play important role sebab you kena kira sendirilah. You janganlah seorang je kira semua company kan. So you dah ada member, setiap member dah ada company yang you all pilih. So your task is to communicate and merge the information into one report. Sebab report ni ada 2. Satu is the written report. Kena report yang bertulis, bertype, bukan bertulis lah. Typed, obviously, hard copy reports. And on top of that, you kena buat presentation, buat video presentation. So share with me the QR code. Make sure you buat QR code jangan type link tu sebab you hantar physical report nanti, hard copy. So I need a QR code. And the video tu kalau boleh you just upload dalam YouTube je sebab YouTube ni dia tak ada expiry sepatutnya. Just record a very short video, 10 minutes video contohnya. The ones macam I buat ni selalunya lecture, I record 1 hour pun I still can share without expiry. So you guys pun please record and then upload dalam YouTube and share with me the link dalam bentuk QR code. And QR code tu kalau boleh jangan ada expiry date lah sebab kadang-kadang you bagi submit sekarang, I bukan esoknya terus tengok. Sometimes it takes a while for me to review your videos and bila the time I nak tengok dah expired. So please use dalam Microsoft Word tu pun sebenarnya you boleh create your own QR code using add-ons dalam Microsoft Word untuk buat QR code, dan QR code tu tak ada expiry. Okay, yeah, I think that's about it untuk hari ini. Okay, so nanti you bacalah sebab whenever we have financial analysis, economic analysis, always akan ada limitation. Okay, limitation. So contohnya macam ratios ni, antara limitation dia adalah limited comparability, especially kalau company tu terlalu diverse, okay, and terlalu banyak subsidiaries dalam tu yang therefore nak cari company yang sama, exactly the same, that have similar components between company A versus company B, mungkin susah. So that's why kalau nak buat comparability, kita kena tengok very narrow yang nature of company tu sama. Okay, kalau dia car manufacturer, kita boleh compare dengan car manufacturer. Walaupun car manufacturer tu sebenarnya a part of a conglomerate company. So due date assignment, I pernah cakap, I tak ingat, I set last time assignment 5 kot Okay, again nanti I akan letak dalam instruction tu together. I akan letak kat situ the instructions, the deadline, and I will put a Google Forms juga, bukan Google Form, Google Drive juga kot. Google Drive dalam bentuk Excel so that group yang dah pilih industri A contohnya, so your friends akan nampak lah, okay, group ni dah pilih industri ni, so yang kat bawah tu tak boleh pilih industri yang sama, and so on lah yang ke bawah tu. So you must have different industry, different sector. Okay, so these are among the limitation yang ada lah. Different accounting treatment. So that's why I nak semua akan pilih company yang listed in Malaysia saja sebab accounting treatment in Malaysia might be different the ones in the US, in the UK, in other Asian countries pun mungkin berbeza sebab kita punya accounting treatment kita guna standard yang berbeza. Macam Malaysia we use MFIRST, Malaysian Financial Reporting System, whereby some country mungkin guna IFIRST, International Financial Reporting System yang berbeza, whereby the treatment of one item tu berbeza from one to another. Okay, so therefore for this reason semua group kena pilih company yang listed in Malaysia sahaja. Contoh, dia tengok brand, dia tak tengok company. Okay, yang sebelum-sebelum ni dia masa dia nak propose tu, dia nak compare Apple dengan Samsung contohnya kan. Apple tak listed in Malaysia, they don't have Apple Malaysia Berhad contohnya. So they have products here tapi kita import. We don't have a company listed in Malaysia, they just listed in the US contohnya lah. So when you want to choose, make sure company tu yang listed, bukan yang jual barang dia di Malaysia. They must be listed in Malaysia. So company yang listed in Malaysia selalunya you tengok perkataan company tu yang ada Berhad. So kat mana nak tengok? Again, refer to Bursa Malaysia lah for references. Okay, and the rest of the limitation lah can be misleading. Kalau data tu data yang salah, kita calculate, keluar output ratio tu ratio yang salah jugalah. Okay, and can be misleading as well if based on false and window dress ataupun misleading accounting information lah, especially when we talk about unreliable figures. Alright, so with that, I think thank you very much. Kita dah habis topic 3. So topic 3 ni important sebab apa? This is your group project punya reference. So reference you memang tengok topic 3 sahaja. So in our next meeting, in seminar 3, kita akan move to topic 4. And topic 4 ni pun penting juga sebab apa? Topic 4 ni akan diguna pakai for our test pula. So our test 1 will be based on topic 4. Okay, topic 4 akan ada 2 statements yang kita akan go through. And both statements tu akan appear dalam kita punya test 1. Okay, dia akan appear dalam kita punya test 1. Okay. So again, thank you very much. So siapa yang tak sign in, you have still time untuk sign in for the next, 10 minutes sebelum 6.45. So insyaAllah, I see you guys in class in our seminar yang ketiga insyaAllah 2 weeks from now. Right, thank you very much and Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, sir.
Okay, come.
Thank you, sir.
Right, welcome.
Yes, sir.
Okay.